Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, and you are watching and listening to a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And joining me, as always, are my co-hosts, Rebellious D and Trav. How you fellas doing today?
As always.
Ready to go, man.
Always. Hey, the three amigos, the three best friends that anybody ever had. I'm trying to think, what other, the NWO, who are some other three-man teams?
Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack, Sonic,
New Day?
Knuckles, and Tails, New Day. Wasn't there a season of Power Rangers where there were three Rangers?
Yes, there was.
Yes,
I
there
think
was.
it Ninja Storm.
Okay, so we got
Maybe
that.
there was.
What are some other three-man teams? Oh, the Shield.
The Shield? Yeah. I like this.
Yeah, I like
That's
this.
right. I was like, I like this.
Hey, it only took 130 episodes, but
I'm trying to think, are there any animes where in My Hero Academia you have Deku,
the big three.
Yeah,
well, I consider them the big three.
Yeah,
Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki.
Yeah. Hey, thank God nobody said Coda because he'll never be.
Oh, here we go. Stop.
I'm speaking
Just
facts now.
No, you're not.
He is speaking facts, but there's just no need for it.
It's hatred.
Yeah, it's just no need for it.
So joining us on today's episode is professional voice actor, the man himself.
That's right.
3 syllables, Matthew David Rudd. Thank you,
That's
Matthew,
right.
for joining us. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Finally, Matthew David Rudd has
And
come
we
back.
do mean finally.
Finally. Hey, I love
Hey,
that.
how
man.
come you ain't say it like a Tribe Called Quest, bro? You didn't give him the full.
I did.
No,
I was
you
about
didn't
to
mention a Tribe Called
Hey,
Quest.
well, I was about to bring that up because he is the third person I believe that we've had up here that has had the 3 syllables. We've had Christopher Dontrell Piper and we've had Mason Alexander Park. And now Matthew David Rudd is the third person. He's the third man. Hey, I love where we're going where it's threes. It's
triplets,
always
yeah.
threes. So
It's always through them triangles.
the triangles, the pyramid. So before we get into this interview, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you hit that bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.
Podcast in the description. Check us out.
Thanks,
D.
Yeah, man. Of course.
Boom.
Boom.
Put the stamp on it.
Put the stamp on it. So, Matt, something we do up here, we always ask all of our guests, what is the origin story? Let everybody know who Matthew David Rudd is.
Oh man, Matthew David Rudd, young boy, grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow, I know a lot of people from Albuquerque.
Yeah. Career-wise, life-wise, I started out there. I knew from a very young age I was going to be an artist of some sort. All my efforts in school was always art classes, drawing, painting. I really wanted to get into film. And eventually that led me to college where I started making films and started being in front of and behind the camera because I was in college and it just, you use what you can, started acting. And then after college, I taught art for a long time, taught music for a long time, and eventually gathered recording equipment through music and started auditioning for voiceover roles. And that kind of brings me to where I am now, kind of transitioned from visual arts into film and then into voiceover. That's really interesting.
Hey, that's what I like to hear.
Now,
Pretty dope.
Something I was going to bring up because, a lot of people that we have on, they let us know that, they got their start in theater. And that's what led to them, getting into the world of voice acting. Now, did you do any theater work before you got into voice acting, or was it just everything that you just told us?
Yeah, so I was always theater adjacent and film adjacent, acting adjacent. So short answer is no, I didn't have any of that kind of formative training that you hear a lot of times. And my friends, I hear a lot from them. But the crazy thing that you will hear more often than not is that musicians are very likely to transition into voiceover. There's a musicality to it. And it's that sort of thing. So, something I've kind of learned about myself over the years is that's how my brain works. I hear something, I can mimic the musicality of it, I can mimic the sound of it, and that's really what got me into liking different voice actors and mimicking them and kind of practicing to be them. And I hear that over and over and over again. From the top guys. Troy Baker's a musician, Rob Paulson's a musician. All these guys are musicians and singers, and that really translates well. Not only are you building up those muscles to do the performances that we do through singing and everything, but that audio memory is just such a huge thing, where especially in the dubbing world, when we're talking about anime and stuff like that, where you're hearing the timing of the Japanese, you're hearing the inflection of the Japanese, and then on the spot you're just asked to put it in English with the same timing and the same inflection. And so when you have that kind of memory recall, it just really helps. So that's one of the things is my parents met in a band, so from age 0 I was hearing my dad play guitar, and I started playing guitar when I was around 10. Nice. And drums, guitar, singing, and that was all just part of my life. And I really think that mixed with the art stuff really just made it easy to transition into this kind of work.
Right. So you got the other ear. That's what you're saying.
Right.
We got another ear.
Yeah, that's a really interesting backstory, and that's the first that we've ever had up here on the podcast. And I think it's awesome that
it's about time we get some musicians up.
Yeah, it's something different. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when I was doing my research on you, I have to say, because I want to give a shout out to my boy Mad Max Morrison, because it's like I heard your voice and I saw like how you acted on screen, and I was just like, man, this is like, he really reminds me of my friend Mad Max Morrison, who he's a professional wrestler, and he recently just started getting into acting, and he has done a little bit of voice acting work. So it's cool that you say that, by you being in music, it helps with voice acting. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I think that's really awesome, and I'm gonna mention that to him, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna be like,
"You do that."
He's probably gonna be like, "Damn, I never knew that."
I mean, the more you guys interview us voice actors, I think you're going to hear that more often than not. Is that a lot of these guys come from a music background, maybe not professionally, but they grew up playing music. It's kind of the same as theater. It's adjacent in the same way, where you get used to performing, you get used to rehearsing, and then having to go on stage and improvise and all that kind of stuff. It all it lends itself.
Yeah, being a musician is basically a performance art anyways.
Exactly.
I mean, it literally is. If you think about like, even band in school and stuff, that's basically getting you started,
You're
piggyback
off of that because it's like you're performing in front of a crowd, and the stage presence. Like that's what makes you get comfortable. And not everybody can do it. It's something that you have to keep on practicing at until you feel comfortable with it. I know when I got into wrestling, one of the things that they used to tell us when you want to cut a promo is practice in front of a mirror. Practice in front of a mirror, and just pretty much talk to yourself. Like, you're cutting a promo, you're looking at yourself. Because if you can't do that, then when you try to cut a promo in the ring, you're gonna blow it. You know what I'm saying? And it's not as easy as some people may think it is. But yeah.
To piggyback off your piggyback, when
so much piggybacking.
Yeah, man.
That's what we do here.
This is one of the many things we do here on Level One.
Hey, we won one episode where we didn't piggyback at all. So we got to make up for that.
We got a trophy for that, though.
It's tough to do.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is it goes back to, we spoke to some of our guests, and I mentioned, how people talk with their hands. Yep. And, everybody doesn't
I'm over here doing this.
Yeah. But, some people do have kind of like stage fright, I guess, or having trouble. And it's like a coping mechanism to some people, just like a tail. Like, when you're under pressure, certain people do certain things. And I think that goes hand in hand with that,
Yeah.
When you're in front of people, some people just can't get it down. And there's certain things they'll always do.
I had a routine every time before I hit the stage back in the day. Was I always vomited right before I went out on stage.
And you had your mom's spaghetti?
No, there's no mom's spaghetti. There was no mom's spaghetti. But
he made his own spaghetti.
Yeah, he sure did.
Hey, I would have a cup, and I'd be on the side of the stage. I would vomit in the cup, put the cup down, and hit the stage, dude.
Yeah.
And
you hear that a lot too.
Every show I had to do it.
Yeah.
Now, and I wanted to piggyback off of what you had said, D, about like being animated and using your hands. And Matt, when you just was waving your hands around, is that something that you do in the booth? Because I know, like how Dee was saying about being animated.
Some people are just animated, you know?
Yeah.
It's just who they are.
You know what? That's a great question, and I have an anecdotal story to tell you.
That's what we love.
I like that. I love that answer.
Side quest.
Yeah.
So my oldest son Jonah is 6 years old, and he's really fascinated, but he's getting to the age where he's old enough to watch the shows that I'm doing. You know, some of the he loves Panda and Jujutsu Kaisen. And so he's getting old enough to watch some of that stuff. And sometimes he sits in here, like right here on the floor while I'm doing my auditions. And just, it was 2 nights ago, he was watching me, and I was doing a totally inappropriate audition to do in front of him, but it was about it was this warlord character, right, that was talking about how he just rips apart his enemies and he's gonna hang them by their toes, you know, all this colorful language.
I like that,
but I'm sitting there and I'm doing it. I'm like, and I'm gonna claw you, this and that, you know, doing all this stuff. And when I finished editing and I submitted it and everything, that was his first question. He goes, Daddy, like, it's just your voice. Why are you doing the claws? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, the claws, when you were talking about clawing. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I explained to him that, and this is like voice acting 101, is this is so much more difficult to be convincing at than if you're in front of a camera. Yes. If you're in front of a camera, like you guys watching me right now, you know what I'm doing. If I'm talking about something, you see me doing it. But you have to hear what I'm doing if I'm a voice actor. And so part of that physicality, you know, if you're cutting a promo and you're The Rock and you're like, you know, if you smell, you know, you're like throwing your head back, you're belting it out. If you weren't doing that physicality, it wouldn't have that projection and it wouldn't have that feel. And so if it's just your voice, you got to do that. If you're yelling, I mean, because I'm in my recording studio here. Most people record in a closet or a booth or, you know, some sort of like little 4x4 thing. You can't be talking in the microphone like this if you're fighting someone. You know, you got to yell. If your guy's 10 feet away, you got to yell like you're 10 feet away. If you're hitting someone, you got to hit someone because you just heard it. Hit someone. You know, you get a certain physicality out of it. And so that's voice acting 101. You got to be animated. You got to be doing and feeling and projecting the way you would in the real scene. And the trick is to do that without stamping your feet, because you stamp your feet and the microphone's going all over the place and making all sorts of noise. And you got to do that without rustling your clothes, and you got to do that without getting your microphone or your headphone cord like tangled up and stuff. So there's kind of an art to it. But to give you a really long story to answer your question, you got to do it. You got to feel it. You got to be that character. You got to yell when you need to yell, and you got to fight when you got to fight. You know, that whole thing.
Well, I remember when they were showing. It was one of the Wolverine movies, right? And you know, they go back in. They got to redub.
Exactly what you're gonna say.
Yeah, they got to redub over their voices or whatever. And they literally had like the treadmill in there and stuff for him to go. So he's running, you know, and yelling, making all the breathing noises and all that stuff. And it's I really feel like you physically have to do it to be convincing.
Yeah, it makes it authentic.
Super authentic.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's hard to do. I can only imagine trying to do that without actually running. I mean, I'm sure some people could do it, but that's tough.
Yeah. Well, you know, the crazy thing is you get out of a 4-hour VO session where you're a guy that's been yelling. You know, most of my characters are these big, burly guys that are fighting the whole time. You get out of a session like that, your abs hurt because you've been clenching yourself the whole time. You know, you're sweating. You're just like, it's like a workout. It's crazy.
It's like you just been in a wrestling match, man.
Exactly. Yeah, with yourself.
Now, I wanted to ask you, have there ever been any times where it's like after you finished recording that it's just like, you know, you had to take a moment because like maybe like a scene was sad, or it's like the scene was just so intense. You was just like, woo. Like I know Sean Schemmel. I always, you know, not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right.
It's Sean Schemmel.
Schemmel. Okay. So like, remember when he did the classic Super Saiyan 3 Goku scene?
Yeah.
Like he passed out after he did it. So like, has there ever been any moments in your career when you voiced a character and you know, something happened?
You know, I have been lightheaded so many times, like to use that example, Sean's example there. Yeah. When you, it doesn't always happen when I'm yelling because I'm just so used to that at this point. But like, you do so many efforts when I just did an episode of something I can't talk about it. It just aired on Toonami the other night. The Promised Neverland is a great show. I don't know if you've seen it, but
of course.
I have. Yeah, I did reviews for every episode of season 2 sub. I haven't watched the dub yet.
Nice. So I'm in episode, what was it, 5 of the dub. I was playing one of these demons that was chasing the kids around town, and 20 minutes of the session is going like chasing these kids, and you start to hyperventilate. You start to feel that like oxygen deprivation, just like you're really running. I've never been to the point where I have to tell the director, hey, give me a second, I need to recalibrate here.
Yeah, but
there's definitely been moments where I'm just like sitting there like, okay, let's, I hope there's a couple seconds here to breathe in between this shot and the next shot, which there usually is. But yeah, I mean, totally. I not only is it hot in here, like you can't have air conditioning going during a BO session because you hear the air conditioning. So not only is it super hot, but most of my characters, like I said, are super physical. And so, yeah, you do get, it's like a workout. It's crazy.
Now, Matt, I want to ask a question that kind of goes hand in hand with being exhaustion. Now, is there anything we haven't asked? A lot of our guests are voice actors and actresses, but is there anything special that you do to recover your voice when you've lost it?
Oh man!
Outside of typical, like, what is it? Honey and lemon. Yeah. Is there anything special that you do in particular?
I mean, there's a great product called Throat Coat Tea, and it's not real tea. It's like it's got cinnamon and it's got all the good stuff, honey and stuff in it. And if I have a particularly bad session, like I use my not bad, but I use my voice in a particularly draining way. Yeah, I'll do that for a couple days afterwards.
Nice.
But it's kind of par for the course for me at this point. Between Rock and Panda, and what was one of the hardest ones for me was Panda's big session. I don't know if you guys saw the episode, but where he goes gorilla mode. And it's just wall to wall fighting for him that whole episode. It was 2 full sessions of that, where it was 2-hour sessions of just yelling and fighting and grunting the whole time. And so, yeah, after those, you tend to be particularly drained.
Shocking.
I've never, I mean, I have a scratchy voice. I have a deep voice already. And so I'm already kind of in that mode a lot, and I've been doing this for so long, like I said, singing and practicing these voices for so long that my muscle memory, it's just like I said, it's just like working out, but my muscles are attuned to that. I have plenty of I hear it more often with my female coworkers and my coworkers that don't play these kind of big rugged characters so much. When they have a particularly draining session, they'll be out for a couple of days, like it's because it's so different than what is normally asked of them. But for me at this point, it's like I'm so attuned to what I need to do to not destroy my voice. I'm using my diaphragm a whole lot more than probably most people are, which is why I'm saying like my abs hurt after every episode. Because if you let your throat do all the work, then you're done. Like you're destroyed for a few days. But I mean, lots of water, lots of throat coat tea. Starbucks, hot liquids.
I was just curious. I think it's something that we will probably start, or I'll, as a group asking moving forward, just to see what different answers you get. Yeah, I think it's a fun, interesting.
Everybody got their little
question.
Voodoo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trav.
Oh, yeah, and I know. There's all sorts of like
why not
rituals, like Travis throwing up and everything. It's like. There's all sorts of rituals people do, but for me, it's just usually hot liquids and throat coat tea.
Got it.
Yeah. Do you come from the rock metal world?
The rock metal world, that was, for a good significant portion of my life, I wouldn't listen to anything but Metallica and Ozzy. There was a point in my life where I kind of realized that there's other good music out there, though, and so my tastes are all over the place now. But
as it should be.
So
much good music, man.
Well, I didn't even really mean from like what you listen to, because I'm all over the place too, as these guys know.
Yeah.
But musically, what you came up in, because from I know I listen to a lot of metal, and it's like these guys. If you ever heard of like Melissa Cross, she's a very famous vocal coach. they all know, like, that's how, as a metal singer, you shred your voice. If you use your voice, you don't sing with your voice. So you carrying that over into voiceover work.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And like I said, it's kind of physiologically just the way that I'm built. Like that's the way that I sing also. It's definitely like a grungy, kind of rugged sound, when I do sing. That's my range. So yes, short answer, yes. And that was a lot of the music I listened to when I was growing up. But also, one of my biggest things that I played on guitar for so long was blues, and again, Tom Waits, a lot of the original blues guys, in the 40s and everything. It's a husky sound. So, So yes to your answer, to your question.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Next.
I want to rewind it back to when you first got into voice acting.
Sure.
Tell us, how was it, being on the mic for the first time in the studio? Were you nervous at all, or did you get in the booth and you just killed it?
Both. I was ready to do it when I did it. My first session. So I started off with live action dubbing. So there's a whole slew of, especially with Netflix now, there's a whole slew of movies coming over from Italy and France and all sorts of different language movies coming onto Netflix. And so every single one of them gets an English track because that's what automatically plays when it's on Netflix. And so when I first moved out to LA and I first started doing voiceover, my first job was doing that. And so you'll hear this a lot from from actors, performers in general, but there's this whole imposter syndrome, like, should I really be here? Am I good enough to do this? And all that sort of thing. And so you feel that almost every time you get in the booth, and it gets less and less as you get more practiced with it. But yeah, you're sitting there, you know what to do. But there's almost, it's funny, anyone who's not in any sort of performative industry says, heck no, I'm never going to do that. This sounds crazy, but you're always showing up not knowing what's coming. Like, you're always showing up. They're going to show you for the very first time, especially in voiceover. When you're an on-screen actor, you get the script ahead of time, you talk with the director, that sort of thing. But more often than not with voiceover, you show up, you see the scene for the first time, and within 5 minutes you're having to perform. You get about 5 minutes to figure out who your character is, figure out what they sound like with the director, and then you got to go.
Why do you think that is?
It's just it's a cost saving. They know that, and it's part of why the people that do this for a living continue to get work, and the people that aren't so good at that sort of improv, that sort of gameness, readiness, they don't continue and they don't get jobs, is because that's the job. They're
the nature of the beast.
It's the nature of the beast. They're getting, and let's go back to wrestling because why not? It's the same sort of thing. They're doing Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. They're performing 300 days a year, right? And so there's not time to like rehearse. There's not time to practice what you're gonna do. You gotta have enough improv skill and enough confidence to show up and just get it done. And,
I like where you're going with this.
I mean,
have you ever been in the ring before?
I was thinking about you guys earlier today, and I was trying to remember what was the MTV show where they
Wrestling Society X.
Tough Enough is what I'm thinking of. I was right at the right age for that. Like, I was 15, 16 or something when that started showing. Yeah. And I would have killed to be out there, and doing that. And when I was that age, I was on the track team at our school, literally so that I could do high jump and always have that like pad to play on with my buddies after practice. Like, we'd be doing like choke slams and like all last rides and all sorts of stuff on that.
Drivers, all that DDT.
But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like everything I've done in my life has been a bit of that improv performative sort of thing, like I said, whether it be music, whether it be sports, and so yeah, I did want to, I would have loved to be on Tough Enough, like that sort of thing. I would have loved to get in the ring and that sort of thing. And I do kickboxing a lot too. So nice. Yes, combat sports is in my DNA also. And so yeah, all of that is the sort of thing that I'm talking about. You got to show up and you got to be ready. You know, you don't know when your opponent's going to drop out and you got to fight someone new.
That's true.
You don't know when you're going to break a string on your guitar and you got to roll with it and figure something out.
That's right.
And like I said, 99% of the time you show up to the vocal booth and you see what's on the screen for the very first time, you know, when you show up. And so, you know, you got to do it. And if you're a performer and if that gets your blood going, then that's the job for you. You know, you're going to succeed.
Now, and I kind of want to piggyback off of something that you had said about, you know, if somebody doesn't show up and it's like they call you up. There was one time in my career where I had went to a show and I wasn't on the card. And I went ahead and put my gear on because I'm just like, yo, maybe if the promoter sees me in my gear, he'll be like, hey, we're going to use you. So it's like I'm in my gear and then he comes up to me. He's just like, why do you have your gear on? I was just like, just in case nobody shows up and you want to use me. He was just like, well, I don't know why you put your gear on, but somebody didn't show up. So I'm going to put you in the ring. And I was just like, hey, awesome. You know, I mean, I didn't know that was going to happen. So the question I have for you is, has there ever been any time in your career where it's like somebody missed out on the opportunity or somebody didn't show up and they was just like, hey, Matt, we need you to do this?
You know, there's something that I'm about to record that I can't talk about where I literally had a conversation with the director and he said, we had this guy in mind, but you know, I'm not going to go into it for X, Y, and Z reasons.
No, that's cool.
He's not available. We like you. We're going to plug you in. Now, this one in particular, I have advanced notice. The guy told me, but still, I'm going to show. I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm going to show up and see it for the first time on that day. That's kind of the closest thing to what you're talking about that I've ever experienced. But the other thing that happens with a lot of frequency is you get done with your lines and you still got. They usually book you for like 2 hours or 4 hours at a time. Yeah. And so you get done with all your lines for your character and you've still got a half hour to kill and they want to use you, you know, they don't want to waste that money. So they'll be like, okay, we have like 3 or 4 more little characters throughout the episode. We want you to fill in. And so again, they can't sound like your main character.
Right.
You know, you're seeing this for the first time, you know, an hour and a half into your session and you gotta, you know, on the fly, you got to switch gears and be these 3 other voices in the last half hour of your session. Well, so that kind of thing happens all the time.
Well, speaking of that, let me ask you this then, because I've actually had this question pop in my head a couple times. Yeah. But I just never was able to get in there and ask it. So when that happens, right, you go in there for something, and let's just say you're doing something real small, basic. Mm-hmm. It's not a main thing. And then something happens and you get a main character spot, or they want you to do extra things. Do y'all have to have the pay conversation for that? Or is it just like, I'm doing you a favor, or are you going to get paid for every extra thing they threw at you that they wanted you to do?
The way voiceover is set up is that you get paid for your hourly allotment. If you're working a network or a union job, I think the rule is they can have you play up to 4 characters. For the amount of money that you were promised, that sort of thing. So short answer, it's different depending on the job, but short answer to your question is that you've got a chunk of time and they can use you.
Yeah. So it's not about characters.
No, it's not about getting paid. You know, it's funny. I was watching an interview with Josh Gad and who plays Kristoff. I'm talking about Frozen.
He also does theater too. I can't think of his name.
Anyway.
From Frozen.
Frozen. He probably never seen it.
No, I have.
Sorry, I never throw that out there throw that out there like everyone's got a 6-year-old kid and they've seen Frozen 1,000 times.
And
but anyway, I was watching an interview with them and Josh Gad is hilarious, but he turns to the other guy, which I can't remember his name, but he says, because that guy plays Sven and Kristoff, the reindeer, and the guy, and he goes, you know, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I've been meaning to ask, do they pay you double for both voices?
Right.
And he goes, no, they don't. And it's just that kind of thing is, you know, I can't speak to exactly their situation because they're at a level that I'm nowhere near. They may negotiate different contracts if they do have 2 main characters.
And they're also getting like money from residuals and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like you just said, it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah,
I
it's a
guess
different
you could
animal.
say, right?
But
his name is Jonathan Groff.
Jonathan Groff, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That's what
Sorry,
I mean.
Jonathan. I know that
Hey,
you're
it's cool.
I know that you're
Hey, it's
listening,
cool.
and I'm
No, because
sorry.
he's incredibly talented too.
No, he is.
He's in
He
the
is.
Hamilton. He's in Hamilton. He plays
Yeah,
King
no,
George,
he's
so.
amazing, and I feel bad that I forgot his name. But to answer your question with that anecdote is he doesn't get paid double.
Right.
They pay him for his time, they pay him for his session, and I'm sure he makes a ton of money on a movie like Frozen.
Yeah.
But no, he doesn't get double because he's playing two characters, and that's kind of how it is. And the thing that you do get is if you're playing a lot of big characters, you get more hours. I mean, it takes more hours to record, so you could be making double just in the sense that you're putting double the amount of time into recording and that kind of thing.
So I wanted to ask you, because I checked out your IMDb, and it looks like your first anime voiceover role was in one of my favorite series, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 5.
Oh, wow. Never heard of that.
Hey, well, I mean, I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but Part 5 is not my favorite one. Part 4 is my favorite. But was that your first anime voiceover role?
It wasn't my first.
Nice.
Was it my first?
Nice. Right?
I'm trying to think. It was so IMDb can be deceiving, of course, because things come out at different times. That's why I'm kind of fuzzy here. That might have been the first release. And if you just looked it up, then you know better than me. But that was one of the first shows where I was like, holy bleep, we're gonna keep it PG. But I was like, holy moly, like this is JoJo's. I know this. I know the fan base of JoJo's. I know this is a big deal. Yeah. And stupid me, I went in there thinking I was gonna play this big character that was gonna have a long-lived thing, and Leaky Eye Luca dies in the first episode of the season. So, and the funny thing too is because you don't hear any vocalization when he dies, I left that session not knowing. I didn't know that he died at the end of that episode.
Oh, wow.
So I'm still like riding high. I'm like, I just got a character in JoJo's, big deal, awesome. I didn't know he died at the end of the episode, and then I watched the episode and I was like, oh, that character's not coming back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's not awesome, but it's awesome. Like,
but it's funny. There's
funny
tons
story.
There's tons of stories like that because they show you only what you need to see. Part of it is because with projects big and small, they don't want you spoiling things.
Exactly,
they don't want that information getting out. But also, it's just a time constraint thing. Like we're not going to watch the whole episode when I only need to record. 20 lines or whatever. So I had no idea that he died, and then it was the carpet was pulled out from under me when I saw it.
Hey, well, look, even though you died, I mean, like you still got to be in the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that JoJo, that's a very popular series, man.
It is.
So pinkies up for you for doing that.
And honestly, Leaky Eye Luca is one of the characters that the fans that reach out to me on Twitter and stuff like that. That's the one that's one of the biggest ones that people know me for. Right. Yeah, even though he's only in one episode, it's a funny thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you had that, and then of course you were in Case Closed, Lupin the Third. Like those are series that have been going on for forever.
You were in the Lupin the Third movie, right?
Yeah, Fujiko Mind's Lie. Yeah.
So what's it called? Now we're talking about a movie theater movie that it's.
Well, I don't know if that came out in theaters. I think that was just the movie.
Oh, okay.
The one that came out in theaters was Lupin the Third, the first that came out last year, I believe.
Yeah, and I wasn't in that one, unfortunately, but yeah. It was interesting because that came real close on the heels of recording for Luca. You'll hear this a lot with people coming up in the business. Is like those first couple of jobs that you get they're kind of the companies, the directors, the production teams, they're kind of testing you out. So you'll get a character that's in one episode. My guy in Lupin was a guy in the show, but it was the same sort of thing. He was killed at the end. It wasn't like he was a recurring character.
Right.
And so I had a number of those, in that 2018, 2019 kind of time frame that came out where it's just like, okay, here's getting the wheels rolling, that sort of thing, small characters. And I think that Rock, Wraithrazor, and Belial from Grand Blue Fantasy. Those were my first two that I was like, oh man, these characters are going to go on for a while. This is pretty cool, you know, that sort of thing.
Now, this is completely kind of changing the thing or whatever, but are you still in New Mexico? Like, you didn't relocate?
Oh, no. I moved out to LA.
Oh, okay.
2018 is when I moved out.
Okay. And for this specifically? Or did you have something that you, okay.
No, it was specifically for that. So, like I said, I had been teaching art for a while, and I started acting kind of as a side thing while I was teaching. Right. And eventually it got to the point that was in Austin, Texas. Right. And it got to the point where I really wanted to be in voiceover. And, you know, you hear it all over the place from the big guys. It's like, you have to be in LA to do that kind of work, to make the connections, to network with the right people.
Networking is what it's all about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Anything that you get, any field.
Yeah, any sort of art field.
Yeah,
it's all about networking.
Yeah, and so if the production companies know that you're out of town, if they know that you're not available at any moment, because you know, a lot of the times you get a call the night before, are you available for something tomorrow, or you know, that kind of thing, or you know, sometimes it's a week before, sometimes it's a couple days before, but always it's kind of the situation where, hey, if you're not in town and you can't be here in the studio, then you know, we're not going to call you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And with voiceover, you know, it's different for big time movie productions, camera work and stuff like that, where you'll have a production where they'll fly you out, you know, if you're on board or whatever. But with voiceover, it's just, like I said, it's like wrestling. It's like they're doing it every day. They're getting stuff done every day. They don't have time or money or, you know, budget or anything like that to fly people out or anything like that.
Well, you don't think it'll kind of get to the point where if you are out of town, they could just source connect with you? Like, you wouldn't necessarily miss out on the opportunity, just because, like, for me being a mix engineer, and this happened to me 2 years ago, we went on vacation up to Maine, but I always bring my gear with me wherever I go. Yeah. And I ended up getting booked, like, for, like, they needed it, you know, 48 hours max. They needed this mix. So I mixed this record right there in the cabin that we were staying at. Once everybody went to bed, I mixed it right there in the cabin and sent it off to them, and, you know, got paid or whatever. And
there's been a huge shift in the production with COVID and with the pandemic and everything. Whether you're in LA or not, you're recording from home, you know, and it's starting to change just slowly over the last couple of months and into the future. I'm sure that people are going to start getting back into the studios, but for the last year and a half, this is where I've been recording. Right. And so, yes, like, that's a huge shift. I think that going forward for talent that's outside of the LA area, it's going to be much more accessible because the studios have been forced through this pandemic to change the way they operate. Right. Before it was a matter of convenience. Like, hey, if you can't be in here, we got 10 other people ready to go. Like, we're going to call in the other people.
But now they can kind of have who they want when they want.
Yeah. And really, it's just, as long as you have a place like this that is sound treated and you're available, you can do Source Connect. It's kind of showing its head a little bit more with commercial work at this point. I mean, like I said, for the last year and a half, it's been everything. But I think going forward, you know, commercial work is still going to stay at home. I think a certain percentage of voiceover work, whether, you know, cartoons, video games sort of stuff, is going to stay at home. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm as interested as anyone else to see what happens, because
you always want to get in there together for the vibe. You know, especially depending on whatever it is you're doing. But yeah, I feel like it's opened the doors though to more opportunities.
And it really does depend on what you're doing. I mean, I don't know if you guys, there's been a ton of behind the scenes footage coming out from Resident Evil that just came out.
Yeah.
And you know, that's mocap. That's you know, your big PlayStation, Xbox projects, they're mocapping everything now to help with the animation. And so that's always going to have to be on a soundstage. That's, you know, you can't do that from home. So yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I think certain areas of the industry are going to stay remote, and you know, as things open back up, certain areas of the industry are going to start rolling again with expecting you to be there, that sort of thing.
So something I wanted to ask is, because, you know, you were acting and, you know, now you're doing voiceover work. Sometimes I feel like when it's just like with wrestling for me, for example, it's like I was wrestling, but then I got into doing some stand-up comedy, and I feel like, you know, it's a juggle. It's like, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Now, is voiceover work, is that like your main thing right now? Or like, are there any acting projects that you're going to be in? Or, you know what I'm saying?
I have a piggyback with that too after your answer, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, short answer is over the last 2 years, you know, on camera acting is just, there's not a lot of it going on because of COVID.
Yeah.
I like voice acting. I mean, this is what I plan to do for the rest of my life. I like on-screen acting as well, though. And it's you know, I do anything that comes my way. But I think just as my career has been kind of on this upward trend over the last few years, you know, it coincided with the pandemic, and so the more work I'm doing is voiceover work, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I love it. But yeah, as soon as I've got tons of buddies that I came up with that are directors and, you know, and producers and writers, and so as soon as those projects start going again, I'm going to be there as well.
Nice.
As soon as they need a tattooed, hairy, you know, bearded bad guy, I'm on camera.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I know we had talked about this off of the pod, and you know, you're huge into wrestling. And there's a new show that's going to be on Stars called Heels. And I mean, hey, you got the tattoos, and you got the beard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who knows? Stephen Amell, it's his show.
It's his show.
It's his
and it's
show,
also got the guy from Vikings, the son of Ragnarok.
Okay.
Now, is that Trav? Is that the same kid from? He was also in the Hunger Games. That kid?
Yes. Yep. That kid.
Yeah, he's huge. I did not know he. Was that big.
No, he's a big guy, dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5".
I see.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'll figure out who's casting. And I'll give him a ring.
Hey, dude, shoot your shot, man.
Yeah.
It's like, you never know what's going to happen. But I mean,
let Banks know too. Squeeze him in there. You know?
I mean, like, to keep it on the wrestling talk. Like I said, you know, you told me that you're a huge fan of wrestling. Like, are you still watching the current product now, or are you like an old school wrestling fan? And it's weird saying old school wrestling fan, because it's like all of us, like, we're older now. So you know, you would hear your parents,
the 80s,
your uncles and aunts say, you know, old school was Hogan and stuff, but it's just like now it's just like old school was The Rock, Stone Cold,
and that's where I jumped on. It was just post Attitude Era. It was like when The Rock was becoming a huge star. You know, Stone Cold was shifting from huge star to heel. Rock was shifting from, you know, heel to huge star. It was that kind of era. You know, Undertaker's my favorite. Like, again, tattoos. You know, he's the guy.
You said it earlier, the last ride. I should have known right there.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that I always watched and saw myself in. Like, I could be a guy.
You like the American Badass version versus the Dead Man?
I
loved it. I loved it all, man. I was such a huge. I mean, we know the term mark, right? For wrestling, like, I mean, everything that man did, you know, just got me going. Like, and they, you know, The Rock and he were probably the best at, like, knowing when they needed to step back, take a year off or whatever, and then show up unannounced, and like just everyone goes nuts. And so when he came back, I think it was Royal Rumble. Like
and Linda brought him back.
Yeah, what was it, like 99, 2000, 2001, something
2000,
like that?
2000.
Yeah. So all the lights go out, and it's like, he's here. And then
they had the kids, the little girls.
Kid Rock music was playing.
The Kid Rock music. That's right.
American Badass.
Yeah, and it's so funny, like, that time frame. It was like there was no YouTube, there was no this or that, and so I was on like LimeWire downloading videos of Undertaker coming out.
Be careful when you mention LimeWire. We can still get canceled for that.
Oh, man.
Whatever it was Napster, LimeWire, all those things.
Share.
Yeah.
Remember, when SmackDown had came out, man. It was like back in those days. It was like if you missed it, you were screwed, or you better had hope that.
No, you had to catch the recap on Saturday.
Yeah, but the recap didn't show everything.
No, they didn't show. They show the important stuff.
Luckily, my cousin, he always recorded Raw and SmackDown. So it's just like, if you missed anything, you would go over to his house and watch it.
Bro, that's so funny. Nice. I had a VHS tape that I would record that week's Raw, and then the following week I would just record
rewind
over
it,
and just rewind it, record back over, and be like, I got it for the week.
Dude, I was such a like recording wasn't even an option for me. Like I was in swim team in high school, and so my practices were whatever they were. I think it was like 6 to 7 p.m. or something like that. Yeah. And I was home. It was, if it wasn't for Raw or SmackDown, it was for Dragon Ball Z on it was it Toonami that was in the afternoon though? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was there for Dragon Ball Z every night, and then whenever it was Raw, SmackDown, I was there for that. I used to have buddies over. We would do SmackDown at my place, and we'd have like 10 guys over, and we'd just throw a party like every week, and then we'd do Raw at my buddy's house, and it was the same thing. We'd like rotate around. Oh wow! But yeah, like everyone in my family knew like Matt's coming home from practice and he's not even there. Like he's watching those shows, like, and then we can talk to him, that sort of thing.
and that's how it was, because it's like it was must see TV, and you had to be there. You didn't want to miss anything, because there were those moments where it's just like you would go to school the next day, and if you miss something, it's just like, damn, like I'm mad.
Well, and you knew like if something was going to happen, it was going to be the second the show started, or it was going to be right before the end. Right. And so it's like there's no option to show up like halfway through and watch the the boring part in the middle, and then miss whatever was going on. So
and remember the classic moment where it's just like you watching the end of the episode, everybody's brawling in the ring, and it's just like,
and then just goes off
on WWE.com so that way you can watch it. Or like,
oh my god!
Or like, there was an episode of WCW. Sting was coming down the zip line, and then the show just ended. It's just like,
show ended. What happened?
It's like, and I remember
I missed that though.
It's like it would piss me off, because I would hope that they would show next week like what happened after the show.
They never did.
It's like, no, it's like you need AOL, you need that 90-day subscription, so that way that you can watch
5,000 free minutes.
Dude, and it's so funny. It's so funny thinking back to those two shows in particular, because they both had that same sort of like crack thing, where it's like, like Dragon Ball Z would like stretch a whole episode of him like grunting and doing the spirit bomb, right? And then then nothing happened, and so you had to be there for the next one to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, I used to hate that, man. And it's like, and it's people, they crap on Dragon Ball Z Kai for getting rid of all of the filler stuff, but I mean, it just moves so smoothly. Like, I mean, it's just
you
like
do that for like 5 episodes.
Yeah, 5, 6
Seriously,
episodes.
watch Goku grunt for 5 episodes.
Literally from Goku showing up to actually physically fight Frieza to when it actually ended, it's like 35 episodes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really, there's not a lot of fighting. There's a lot of talking
and all that.
No. I'm talking about physically when he got out of the water thing and he went there.
Yeah.
And while Vegeta was getting that ass whooped, when Goku showed up, from when he finally gave Frieza the final, blast that killed him. It's like 35 episodes, dude. That's for that little portion. And that's ridiculous. And a lot of it is 5 minutes. You know?
Could you imagine being could you imagine being a little older and reading it opposed to watching it?
Well, I'm sure reading it was probably quicker.
Yeah, reading was.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Could you imagine having?
But I'll tell you what. Now that Matt said that you get paid by the hour, I'm sure them voice actors were loving it. Hey, stretch it, make it longer.
Hey, no, that narrator was loving it. That's what
and that good old Christopher Sabat right there.
Yeah, same time frame for all of this that we're talking about. Like with Toonami, like you'd only get like 10 chunks at a time, 10 shows at a time, and then it'd be like you have to, and then they recycle the whole show before they get the next chunk, right? So same thing as with wrestling. When I was saying I was on the internet downloading those things, like you couldn't quite do that yet, but I ordered the whole series of Dragon Ball Z from Japan, like came on discs, because that. And so I had no patience for like the whole Toonami.
Now let me ask you something, because you ordered it from Japan. I know a lot of times, even to this day, when you order anime from Japan, it's not subbed. Was it subbed when you got it?
It was subbed, yeah, but it was burned discs. Like somebody had it was like the worst resolution. Like
Oh,
some
of course.
episodes were completely unwatchable. You know, it was, I don't know, I spent like maybe $35. I don't remember what it was, but it was like
that early 90s dub, because I remember there was this flea market out Virginia Beach, and they had Dragon Ball GT there, but it's like for us, like we were still in the freezer side, but you could get Dragon Ball GT on VHS, but like the subs were horrible. The quality was bad. It literally looked like somebody recorded this with a video camera and and just put subtitles up there. But I wanted to, because it's like, you know, you were on Jujutsu Kaisen. I didn't want to get towards the end of the episode without mentioning this, but you know, that's a huge deal right now. And you voice Panda. Now I'm going to be real with you. When I saw Panda, it made me think about Panda from the Tekken series.
Absolutely.
But you know, Panda in Jujutsu Kaisen was a badass. I hated. Like,
hold on, Panda and Tekken's a badass.
No, Panda and Tekken.
You're always disrespecting.
Panda and Tekken is just as useless as Coda. And
unless you're Jamel. Shout out to Jamel.
But Jamel. Yeah. But yeah, like tell us, like voicing Panda on Jujutsu Kaisen, just being on that show, this the next big thing, like Brock Lesnar. How was
it? Dude, I love it. I mean, I keep joking with my other voice actor friends, is like, if I can corner the market on big animal, you know, characters in these anime shows, I'm happy with that. Like,
yeah,
I love between Rock and Panda.
Right.
I mean, you know, you hear some actors being like, they don't associate me with my character. I'm just playing a character. You know, I'm a real person and everything. But those guys are so much my character. You know, they're the big guys that everyone thinks is gruff in the beginning, and then they get to know them, and they're like the kind of guy that, you know, in the show they're going to end up sacrificing themselves to save the hero, or you know, something like that. I love them, and I identify with both of those guys. And Panda's great. I love that. You know, both of them, they're cut from the same DNA. They're goofy. You know, they're serious and they're badass, and they'll save your butt when you need to. But then they're goofy. You know, they'll go right to the next scene and be doing something ridiculous.
Well, I love beast characters.
Yeah.
You know, especially when there's only like one or two in the show.
I was about to ask you, Trav.
Now, we don't need to talk about Bunny. I know where this is going.
No, I was about to bring up B-Stars.
Oh, B-Stars.
But BNA was, I like that more.
BNA was good. Yeah,
I wanted to ask you, because it's like you mentioned Rock before from the anime Tower of God.
Yeah.
Now, to our listeners and viewers who don't know who Rock is, because it's like I've never heard of this anime, but I've seen the images, and Rock, okay, he looks badass. Like, what is Tower of God about?
Tower of God is a really, really cool show. You know, it's interesting. So it's a manhwa. So it's not an anime. I think I'm saying that right, but it's a Korean show. So it's based on a Korean comic book, which I believe they pronounce it manhwa. But you know, like I said, I'm an artist. You know, that's how I started. And so when I see certain things that are just beautifully rendered and all that sort of thing, one of the reasons I love Jujutsu Kaisen is Studio Mappa does that, and it's just gorgeous. That's how I felt when I saw the comic version of Tower of God, when I was doing a little research when I learned that I got the role. But it's this really cool story where it's almost like a Hunger Games sort of situation. Characters are trying to ascend this tower. They're all fighting each other to get up to the next level. And
Bruce Lee style.
It makes sense now that it's called Tower of God.
Yeah, and the reason they call it Tower of God is when you reach the top, when you reach the pinnacle of the tower, there's a god figure there that grants you a wish. And so all of these characters have all these different backstories. You know, it's the classic thing where they've got this heartfelt backstory. Everyone needs something from this tower. Yeah. And so your main character is Bomb, and he's this kid that's trying to ascend the tower. But everyone is there, and they form alliances on the way. And Rock is a character that just wants to be the toughest guy in the room. And so more so for him, at least from what we know so far, more so for him, this is a challenge. This is a chance to prove that he's the best. And so he's just along for the ride, and he seems to be trying to help his buddies ascend the tower so that, you know, he can help them get their wishes made, which I love. I love that that's the character. He's almost he just in the same way that Panda is. They're the comedic relief when things get too serious. Like he's the guy, he doesn't know he's being funny, but he walks in the room and challenges everyone to a fight when it's like the most inappropriate time to do so. And it, it causes a laugh or something like that.
So kind of like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly. Okay. Definitely that archetype of character. He's one track mind, everyone else is talking about something else. And then it cuts to him and he's like, all right, when are we going to fight? That sort of thing.
Hey, I love it. You just did the voice too.
And there's Panda.
Yeah, I love that. That was a nice little tidbit to the story. So I wanted to kind of rewind and piggyback from something that you had said earlier in the episode. Your art, you taught art on your page. Like you have such amazing pieces up there. I was a real fan of the Batman stuff that you did.
Yeah.
Like, is this something that you still do when you have free time, or like?
Yeah, man. I mean, if you don't mind, I could grab some stuff off the shelf behind me.
Go
ahead. Go ahead. Show it to our viewers. Yeah, show it.
Yeah, man. I mean, not only so when I started art, it was a drawing, painting sort of thing because I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was younger. Nice. Huge X-Men fan growing up, and just wanted to be in that world.
Nice.
And like I said, those sort of things evolved into what I'm doing right now. But so when I'm going to cons, when I'm going to anime comic cons and stuff like that, and I'm signing prints, I did those prints, like I made them.
Nice.
And grab something for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, show it off. Trav, play the music.
What music?
Now that you're number one.
So this is this is the pencil drawing from the Panda print that I've been signing. Wow. I painted it. I did a digital painting of it, and so when you buy it, at my booth or whatever, it's a painted version. But this is Panda going gorilla mode.
That's the original.
Yeah,
that's sick.
Yeah. So stuff, anywhere from stuff like that, and you guys know, you've heard me talking this whole time, I'm a huge nerd. So as soon as I get a character like Rock Wraithrazor and I see that he's got this awesome spear that he carries around.
Hey,
oh my god, I didn't expect this though.
I had to make one, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's bad.
I was about to bring that up too, because you make a lot of props as well, and sculptures and all that stuff. So
what doesn't he do?
Yeah. He's the man with the plan.
This is my latest creation. I saw the trailer for Black Widow, and I had to,
nice.
Make the what's his name? Why can't I think of his name right now? The Red Guardian.
Yes.
Red Guardian.
I can't even think of who's the actor.
The guy from Stranger Things.
And Hellboy.
He was in Hellboy, and he did a good job in Hellboy.
He did a great job as Hellboy. The movie.
Who was he in the? Who was he? Hellboy.
Yeah, he was Hellboy.
The new one.
He got a lot of flack for.
But he was a great Hellboy.
This is Harley Quinn's gun when I saw her in that movie. Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this is what we love to have up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, because it's like one of the things that I love is when we have guests and it's like they show off their collections. Like we had a voice actor, Danny Kramer, who we nicknamed Baggin' Saggin' Danny, because when we had him up here, he just kept on pulling stuff like he just kept pulling it out. That's what she said. And it's just, it's always cool because it's like, these are our collections, and we spent a lot of money in them, or we spent a lot of time like you have, working on this stuff. And I appreciate you showing us,
that's just always been me. That's how I connect with whatever I'm into. Like when I was younger, like I said, it was drawing. And so like I spend the night watching Dragon Ball Z. The whole next day in school, I'm sitting there, it was always Piccolo for me. Like I was always drawing Piccolo. Like he was my favorite character.
Piccolo.
Yeah.
Nice pick. He's actually a great character.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's funny because it all comes full circle. Piccolo's that same archetype of a character where he's not the main character. He's pretty badass when he needs to be.
He is.
And he's ultimately he with Gohan he does the sacrifice play. That's what makes him so endearing. Is like when he needed to step up, he stepped up and he sacrificed himself so that Gohan could, that's always been my favorite character, between it was Darth Vader in Star Wars. It was, it was Piccolo. It was all these guys. That's my favorite.
So you're a fan of characters that redeem themselves, pretty much.
Yeah, or the character, the character that's the
kind of like a
unlikely
tragic hero.
Maybe,
like
yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, I think he would be classified as a tragic hero.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Michael
absolutely.
No, Piccolo.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Just making
Come
sure.
on.
Yeah, and
Mike.
for the same reason you brought up Batman earlier, but yeah, Batman's always been a huge thing for me, is because he's not a good guy.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'll talk about that as much as anyone wants. Batman's not a good guy. He's got issues, and he's got a code that is ultimately not a good thing. It's like unmovable. He is unwilling to change and unwilling to be a good guy, like a Superman kind of guy.
Yeah.
He can't do that because and that sort of conflict that really draws me to the character.
Right.
You even see like in the Justice League Doom, like it's like he had a contingency plan for each member of the Justice League, and they were pissed because it's like they didn't know about it, but at the same time, it's like if they knew about it, then
Well, you can always argue for Batman. I want to stay on this topic for a second.
Yeah, this is fun.
I've always felt like his code to not kill is not because he thinks killing is wrong. I think he's addicted to the cycle, and if he takes out all of his, if he eliminates all those people, what else he got? So that's why I've always felt like Batman doesn't want to kill off anybody, because then it stops. And
and that's kind of it's kind of what I was saying, is like he's not doing that to be a good guy,
right? Absolutely,
It's a contingency plan, basically.
But at the same time, that if the storyline demands it, and Superman has to make the game-winning play, Batman's going to sacrifice himself. Batman's going to jump in there and let Superman do the thing that he needs to do, right? And again, it's that same sort of archetype. It's, and I could say Darth Vader was the same way. Not only was it a redemptive story, but like, and I guess I'm talking about before we knew the full, scope of the Anakin Skywalker story. But, when we were watching, Return of the Jedi, that's ultimately what Darth Vader did. He played the sacrifice play so that Luke could then go and be the hero, and I love that archetype. I love playing those characters. Not only is it cathartic and a good release to have some of that bad guy juju in your character, but it's not as weighty as playing the main character, right? You can have fun with it. You the whole show's not resting on your shoulders. It's kind of a win-win.
Hey, the ultimate bad good guy is Jensen Ackles. Ain't that right, Banks?
Yes. And
yes, he is.
You got me blushing over here, man. So I have one last question for you, and then Trav, D, y'all can ask our final question, and we can go ahead and wrap this thing up. But I wanted to ask you, what are some other things that you do? Because like one thing we do up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks is we let the fans know who the voice actor is or actress behind the microphone. So like, what are some of your hobbies or interests that you like to do when you're not voice acting?
Dude, I've been kind of going over them. It's fun because I get to connect with the fans on so many things, not the least of which just being a complete nerd in the same way that they are, in the same way that you guys are. I'm playing video games. I already talked about Resident Evil. I just played that the other day. Video games have been a huge part of my life and a huge part of my acting, and that sort of thing all feeds into itself. Comic books, I'm building things, I'm drawing things. My wife and I actually built this bought this house about a year ago, and I've been spending a lot of my time. I built this room. I've been it was a 1983 house, so I've been doing a lot of construction over the last year or so. Nice. I like to work with my hands. It's all art related for me. I like to make things. I like to craft things. But yeah, I mean, like my son and I are always playing video games together. We're always watching cartoons together. That's the kind of stuff I'm into.
Like it.
Nice.
Same here. So I'm
Hell
with you.
Yeah.
Trav?
Nah, nothing really. I feel like it's insane, just how talented
and amazing
you are. Yeah, for real. Like,
I appreciate it.
I really feel like the list of things you can't do is what we should be talking about versus what you can do, because there's such a difference.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next time.
If you indulge me for a second, that's part of what I loved about teaching as well is when you understand, and it's something I understood at a young age, but when you understand that being a creative learner can open up all these doors for you, it's like that's when you get to do all this stuff. Like everything that I do now is because I was into art when I was a kid. Exactly. And I saw how the sausage was made, right? I saw how comic books were made. I saw how movies were made. And ultimately I saw how voiceover was done, and being a part of that. And Trav, I do the same as you. I'm a mixer, I'm an engineer, I'm an editor. So having that experience, knowing how the sausage is made, makes me that much more of a good actor, because I know when I need to stop for the edit, or I know when I need to pause or hold my breath or extend something, because I know what the edit's going to look like.
Right.
And so the fact that I was an artist really and understood that kind of technical aspect of everything has really allowed me to succeed in anything. I mean, like I said, building a house, like you can apply that knowledge to anything you do.
Words of wisdom.
I mean, it seems like you have a rival. You know what I'm saying?
No rival.
You already said he has the ear. There can only be one. There can only be
a
one
rival.
ear.
No, sir. How many ears does the human body have? 2, baby.
Okay, so y'all gonna do the fusion then? Okay, all right. I like it.
The ears ain't together, bro. They on.
Hey, but when y'all do the fusion dance, the ears are going to be on one side.
Trav, you see this guy?
Exactly. Hey, let me be, bro.
It was a great episode, and then he just makes it weird.
Well, that's what.
That wasn't weird at all, man.
Look,
hey,
I know,
you see, Matt,
I know how the wrestlers are.
Trav, my man did the fusion dance, and you left him hanging, man.
I know.
Like,
I'm up top though.
Trav, you ain't gonna do it.
Weird.
No, y'all can't go the same way, Trav. What the hell?
We're not going the same way. You know what it is? I think maybe his tiles are different than our tiles.
My tile, I'm at the top right. So listen, as long as I get to be Trunks, then we can do the fusion.
Well, I think
you can be whatever you want to be, man.
Trav, isn't that your favorite character too?
Trunks?
Yeah.
No, Vegeta.
Okay. Father, son. I like it even better. I like it because
nice.
And D, I'm Goku and D's Gohan.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
Perfect.
Hey, D, Banks don't understand because wrestlers are always trying to take each other's spot. And it's not like that. It's not like that in the mixed community. We like to get each other jobs, man, and help each other move forward. So Banks don't understand. D. He doesn't understand.
See, and I'm more of a Yamcha guy. Thank you very much. I'm good with just chilling. All right,
playing baseball.
Yeah, get killed a couple times. I'm like, good.
You're good for showing up every 20 episodes or so.
Just me and little Poar, just hanging out. All right, it's cool.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, well, D, go ahead and close us out and ask the famous question.
Yes. Okay. So Matt, what I like to ask all of our guests is, when you were coming up, or even now, what is something like a movie in particular that really creeped you out coming up? Horror movie. Anything spooky? Yeah.
Dude, I've got a specific answer for you. I don't watch horror anymore because I saw the best one. I saw the pinnacle. I don't need to see any more. Right?
Heard that.
Now you guys are going to completely disagree with what I say. No, for me, it was The Descent. Are you familiar with it?
Wow.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's actually a very good movie.
I think it fires on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah.
It's not like the torture gore sort of stuff.
No, it does. Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
It's terrifying and it's perfect. And honestly, I say this more often than not, is like, I don't need to watch any other horror movies.
I love that answer, and that's why I love the question, is because it's such a broad topic. You never know what somebody's going to say. It doesn't. It could be. It could be literally anything. Like our last guest,
it could be Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Exactly. It could be anything.
I'm more into the Descent too.
That's what I was about to ask, because it's like, I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it
because it's garbage. Because it's garbage, dude.
It's one of those things where they took, I wouldn't go as far as it's garbage, but they took one of the perfect things about that movie, and something I love about movies, the first one that is when it leaves the end as a question.
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Yep. It's a great way to close things.
Did it happen in the first place? Any of that stuff is kind of left up in the air in the end.
Yeah.
And then this is example that there's not a whole lot of, where the sequel just picks up right where the end left off of the first one, and kind of I don't think it's garbage, but it takes away that whole aspect of the first movie that was so intriguing.
Kind of like the only other movie that, now that we're talking about it real quick, is Evil Dead is another one that picks up where it left off, and it's just it definitely goes in a totally different direction. But yeah, that was one of the only other ones that I could think of.
I know that they kind of
doesn't
try to do it in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. Like depending on which version.
Yeah, it depends what you're watching. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm good on the first one though. See, that's the thing. Like I don't need any of those. But great answer. Yeah, love the answer, Matt.
Thank you.
Matt, it was a blast having you on. You
treasure.
Were incredible. Yeah, for real, man.
Hey, take these with you. Only use them when you need to.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, man. I mean, I'll be on here anytime. You guys let me know when you want to do another one.
Hey, that's what we love to hear, because here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, we like Olive Garden. We family. I love that. So before we let you go, let everybody in social media land know where they can find Mr. Matthew David Rudd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm active on both Instagram and Twitter. I love talking to fans, and I love, sharing pictures. One thing that you'll notice, on my Instagram is I'm constantly sharing fan art. And you guys have heard why. I love seeing the kids that are interested in this doing exactly what I did, and drawing those characters, getting into the world that way. So Instagram, Matthew David Rudd, just my full name. On Twitter, it's Voice of Rudd. Voice of Rudd is my handle. So come find me, chat with me, let me know what's up.
Thank you. D, let them know where they can find you at, man.
First and foremost, Matt, thanks for leveling up today. And you can find me at rebellious_D23 at Instagram.com. Trav.
Hey, and since you over there on the Instagrams, you can find me at ZK Audio. And then you can head on over to the Twitter and find me at TravioSZK. And of course, if they are in search of a hero, where they going to find one at?
You can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at KingBenji_Banks on Twitter and Instagram. And you can look me up on Facebook at Benjamin Banks. I should be the first person to pop up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you, Matthew David Rudd, for joining us here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And like I always say at the end of every episode, keep that pinky up. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Stay positive and stay safe. Peace.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching another episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the channel. Podcast, we got that too. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit that bell for further episodes and notifications. Thanks a lot to our patrons. And if you don't mind, join the Patreon. We'll be having new specials coming up soon.